Welcome to a dramatic presentation of The Other Wise Man by Henry Van Dyke. The adaptation was put together by David Bryant, and the cast is drawn from members of First United Methodist Church in Phoenixville. But first, let me tell you about the author of the story, Henry Van Dyke. He himself was like three wise men all rolled up into one. In the first aspect of his life, he was a Presbyterian minister. He had been born just before the Civil War, and he graduated from Princeton not long after it. He went on and began what was a conventional but effective pastoral career that included being an advisor and a spiritual confidant to Helen Keller, and one other person that was a bit surprising, Mark Twain. He actually was the preacher at Mark Twain's funeral in 1910, and that was definitely an honor. He must have really been something to be able to hold his own with Samuel Clemens. He would shortly thereafter be tapped for his second wise man role. The president of Princeton went on to become the president of the United States, Woodrow Wilson. And he called on Reverend Van Dyke to become the ambassador to the Netherlands and Luxembourg. This was in 1913, just before the outbreak of World War I. And over the course of his time in Europe, Henry Van Dyke was largely working with refugees from all across the continent who were trying to find a place of safety or reach a place of safety across the ocean. It was in a war zone that he spent that time. And it is interesting that in 1896, before this had ever happened, as part of his literary career, I forgot to mention that one, he was teaching English at Princeton. He was publishing poems. He was publishing stories. And in the course of it in 1896, he published the story that we're about to hear, The Other Wise Man. And part of what happens in that story is that someone has to face the question how to conduct himself in the midst of war and how to help people that are in danger. These were questions that Van Dyke never knew he would face in his own life. He thought things were relatively easy. In fact, one of the most joyful poems that he ever wrote is about joy. It's one we still sing. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before the opening to the sun above. And the same man who wrote that would be there dealing with the devastation of World War I and doing it very well. Not all of his poetry survived. I mean, it's around, it's to be found, but some of it was not very good. Some of it, however, was. And one of his poems, part of one, was actually read at Princess Diana's funeral. So in a way, he spoke at Mark Twain's funeral and Princess Diana's. How many people can say that? And so we offer you his words now as part of our celebration of Christmas, as part of our celebration of the Prince of Peace. Glory to God in the highest, and peace on earth.
You, gentle listener, no doubt know the story of the 3 wise men of the East and how they traveled from far away to offer their gifts at the manger cradle in Bethlehem.
But have you ever heard the story of the other wise man, who also saw the star at its rising and set out to follow it, yet did not arrive with his brothers in the presence of the young child Jesus?
Have you heard of the great desire of this 4th pilgrim, and how it was denied, yet accomplished in the denial?
Have you heard of his many wanderings and the frustrations of his soul?
Have you heard of the long way of his seeking?
Have you perhaps heard of the strange way of finding the one whom he sought?
We will now tell you the tale, as we have heard the fragments of the story as it has resonated in the Hall of Dreams.
We will now tell you the tale, as we have heard the fragments of the story as it has resonated in the heart of all humanity.